Why do companies merge, and what are the 6 main types of mergers and acquisitions? In this video, we will discuss just that. Make sure to stay until the end of the video to find out the difference between a merger and an acquisition. If you're new, I'm Zoppi, an English qualified solicitor, and I help UK SMEs with their corporate and commercial legal needs. Great, so what are the 6 main types of mergers and acquisitions? First, we have the horizontal acquisition. That is when one company buys a similar company, typically a competitor, and the goal is to minimize competition and expand their market share. Then we have vertical acquisitions. That is when a company, for example, a producer, buys another company that is in the same supply chain, but either higher up or lower down. For example, a distributor of products. And the goal there is to minimize their costs and to secure their supply chain. Third is a conglomerate acquisition. That is when typically a holding company that already owns quite a few companies decides to buy an entirely different company that services a different customer in a different industry, and the goal is to diversify their portfolio. Fourth is the market extension acquisition. That is when one company buys another company that sells similar products but to different markets, and the goal is to increase the market for the same or similar products that the company is already selling. Fifth is the product extension acquisition, and that is when one company buys another company that sells different products but to the same market, to the same kinds of clients. And the goal there is to increase the customer lifetime value. So in other words, you're selling more things for more money to the same people. And lastly, we have the reverse merger. And that is when a private limited company buys a publicly traded company. And the goal is to avoid the private company having to go through the process that is lengthy and costly of going from private to public, and instead simply buy a company that is already public, and that way turn your private company into a public one. Great, but before we discuss the difference between a merger and an acquisition, feel free to send me an email if looking for professional legal advice. So what is the difference between a merger and an acquisition? Well, in theory, there isn't really a merger. Someone is always buying someone else. With traditional acquisitions, it could be an individual or a company that buys the assets or the shares of another company. That is a straightforward acquisition. Possibly a merger is when, for example, you have a third entity that is set up by the two companies, and that third entity buys, for example, the assets of the two companies that want to merge. But it is nonetheless an acquisition because you have that third entity that buys or acquires the two entities that are below. If you're looking to buy a business, you will need to decide whether to go for a share purchase or an asset purchase. To learn about the differences and which option might be best for you, make sure to watch this video right here.